at 6:30 at the capital city.
We're not doing that.
Oh, about 50. Yeah.
That's funny.
And we don't have one a year. This is it for us. That's right. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure today to have the meeting chaired by my vice chair, Representative Jimmy Pruitt. He wants to be able to speak into the microphone, evidently. But I'll make him start with an invocation, and then I'll turn the meeting over to him. Jimmy?
Thank you. Lord, we thank you for today for people who really care and that turn out for events such as these and understand that it's the things that we talk about on a daily basis that we come to a solution of things that can help us as individuals and help our kids and in the future of this state and this nation. We thank you for those who are willing to participate and spend their time here, and we pray your blessings on all that we say and do. All things we ask in your name. Amen. Now is it my committee?
Mr. Chairman, just as soon as we have our committee member.
I think we now have a forum. Glad to have you. I like that tie. I am very, very excited today about having our Commissioner of Agriculture here and his great staff. And he does have a great staff, and I think he'll admit to that too. And he's been a good friend of mine for a long time. And he's if you never heard him sing, anytime we have an opportunity, he always says, you know, Mr. Commissioner, I'd literally like you to sing. And he, you know what? If you ask him, he'll do it too. That's the thing. But he's. I wished I had that talent, but I'll let you ask him. But today I've asked him to come because, particularly, that last year we had a bill that we worked on together, and we're through the Department of Education also. It was a farm to school food program, and been excited about working with the chairman and his staff and even the organic people and the Arthur Blank Foundation to try to bring better nutrition to our school systems, particularly the K through 12 initially. And the commissioner, because of his request, we held off on that legislation last year because he had to put some things in place, and he has done so, and very excited about the progress that's being made. And I guess you call it the test market that we're already into is hopefully being very successful. And obesity in our children is really a huge problem. It's tripled in the last 3 decades, and it is a serious issue that we need to deal with. And one of those things is that you've got 75% of the people, our kids, who participate in public school lunches in the nutritional program. So if we could get better food and better nutrition to the table, I think that's one way we could possibly curb this increasing dilemma that we have with obesity in kids. And I will also say that there's a program put together called Feed My School for a Week, and I believe there was 5 schools that participated in that, 3 statewide, and I'm anxious to hear how that's going. And but again, it's all about trying to get fresh fruits and vegetables without all the preservatives and things like that to the table at the school systems locally. And I just admire the fact that the Commissioner and the Board of Education have been working so hard together, because that's one thing up here at the state we have a little issue with sometimes, is having different agencies want to work together. They all want to take credit for different things, but they've done a good job working together. And I see some progress being made, and anytime you add additional work to any commissioner's job, that's something he doesn't have to do. So our Commissioner Black has been very open and honest and willing to work with us in any way. And Commissioner, I'd love for you to come just tell us about the program, and then hopefully have some time for some questions.
Yes, sir. Thank
Yeah, it's wireless. It's wireless.
No,
You can
good.
walk around if you like.
Oh, good. I'm gonna, because I am gonna show you something in just a moment. But to the chair, I appreciate and Mr. Vice Chairman chairing this meeting. Thank you for the kind invitation to be here, and members of the committee and good friends all around. And if Chuck Williams doesn't start, I won't finish. So we've known one another long enough that if he starts, he knows I will finish. So we're glad he's in this in this body. It's a special privilege to come, and there are many of us here who've known one another for some time, and just it's kind of what gray hair does to you around this place, because I think my first session working over here was 1990. But I always look forward to getting to come to. It's one thing to go to the Ag Committee or go to Natural Resources, where I spent most of my life, but I know it's the first time I've been to your committee, but we're trying to do more of that at your department, just like we had our Cobb County group. We'd like to invite any of you. If you have a group, we've got 2 renovated rooms over at the department. Rather than paying for a room somewhere, if you got some of your community leaders or your leadership group, anybody, if you'd like for them to come, we'd love to have them in the department, because I make no bones about it. That gives us just a little bit. If you're going to be in our building, you probably got to take 5 minutes and let me greet everybody. And if we can do that, then we teach them a little bit about agriculture. So I unashamedly will say that there's some motives there, but I want you to see what's going on, and so it is a privilege to be before your committee. What I'm going to do today is review 2 things. The 2 things where we made substantial progress in these last 13 months and 8 days. Not that anybody's counting, but we're beginning to see some very, very exciting things begin to happen. The chairman is correct. We have an excellent staff. I make no bones about it. We have we set as a vision for this department to be the exceptional agency in state government. I'm not going to settle for anything less. That means taking good people. It means taking the talent pool that we have and building that, making sure that they have every opportunity to expand their horizons. We've done so this year in food safety and a wide range of other training opportunities, but also in just the attitude of excellence and making sure that we're being creative, and we're maybe doing some unconventional things, so things that people never thought. There are the obvious things that our agency does, and we'll do them. We're going to serve the consumers. We're going to provide the protection. We're going to, in food safety, we're going to make sure every gallon's a gallon at the gas pump and serve you when you have constituent needs. But I also believe there's a little better calling too, that calling of excellence, that maybe for us to get involved and take some leadership in some issues, and certainly the 2 that we're going to discuss today, we're trying to step out. First, let me go back on a little bit of history when it comes to Georgia Grown. Those 2 words, Georgia Grown, and Representative Ash is over here. She's all over Georgia. She's been a big supporter, and I've got a pen for all of you. I hope y'all are all Georgia Grown legislators. I caught her early. But the Georgia Grown concept came about 10 years ago, and some of you who've been around this building for a little while may remember one of those little small parts of the budget. There was $250,000, there was $350,000, then it cut back to $250,000. Some advertising that was actually done for Buy Georgia Grown. That was one step. We took a step, and I'm going to be complimentary of taking a step, but there's so much more one could do. Our strategies, we are strengthening our strategies, understanding why we promote what we do, keeping data, and actually beginning to Georgia Grown, the words built some brand recognition. But our materials and our willingness to really work with the people that were going to use that and build that brand were, let me just say, we're going to do a better job for you. And so there's a new generation of Georgia Grown that has just hit the marketplace about 4 weeks ago. And if you'd allow me the liberty to walk around, here's GeorgiaGrown.com. If you see at the very top of the top left-hand corner, that is the new Georgia Grown logo. It is user-friendly. It can be put in a thumbnail. It can be put on a big billboard. It can be used as a banner. You're going to see this really begin to build this brand, Mr. Chairman. Now, where can we use this? Well, I think you're going to see it on every Vidal Union box. but you're also going to see it in our, soon to come protocols for a Georgia-grown restaurant. We think there are going to be Georgia-grown companies that are going to want to support the program, and so what we've done thus far is to develop GeorgiaGrown.com as a with some of our marketing dollars, but the key issue here for producers or for businesses will be to license the use of that and to get in a direct relationship with the department to license its use. That's where we didn't ever do a very good job in the past, because we just mailed a few of them out and we hoped they work, and I don't know, a few people, we saw a billboard and we saw this, that, and the other, but we didn't know exactly what were the metrics on it. Did it make a difference? Were you using it on point of purchase material? How many website hits did you get? How many suppliers, how many producers got contacts from suppliers that came directly from our efforts? And so that's what we're building right now. And I knew that we might get in a slow situation here, but marketing materials, the two levels that we have right now for the license, simple license to the use of the logo is $100. If you don't have a PR department, you don't have banners of your own, or you want to do that, we would give them a little more help. All digital information, all downloadable files, banners, point of purchase material, price cards, pre-prepared advertising for magazines, newspaper, all that comes in the $500 package. And so producers, businesses, as you saw the scrolling just to follow, agritourism venues, farmers markets, and I know some of our friends around the table, I know there'll be one or two at least that know. There are a lot of farmers that there is, in the great thing of great Georgia and great America, we all have associations for everything known to man, right? Well, there is a Georgia Club Calf Producers Association. That means those steers and heifers that young people show. Well, there's a network of people that raise those that are conducive to that market. And the Georgia Club Calf Producers Association's already joined. What they're going to be doing is putting this on all their marketing material to see really the possibilities are endless. But once you join, and this is where this connects to our second topic as well. How do we connect people to understanding what's available when, and where is it, and who's growing it, and how do you get people that are seeking product, and how do you link them together? Well, on the what's in season link that is quite a little slow. You can see right now the things that we're starting with fresh vegetables. That's the easiest thing to start with. Dairy, we do have links on here for dairy, beef, and again, restaurants are coming. There's a wide range of things that I think, nursery products, forest products, again, opportunities are endless. But for example, right now, we know that carrots, Georgia is actually becoming a large producer of carrots on the East Coast. People are realizing that you can't just put all your production in California. We're very well suited to grow this industry, and it's just it's a real bright spot in agriculture. But now once you click on the carrot, you can see when it's available. And then let's move down here real quickly to what farmers are producing the carrots. And these are the individuals who have licensed the use of the logo. And so when we come up there, you can also see the pick your own farms where they're available, the farmers markets that are linked in, the retail and restaurants coming, ag, tourism, processors, and suppliers. And see, all this data is going to continue to just build. Well, what happens is a supplier, if I look then and I say, well, for example, let's go to Terry Gerald, Jamie Brannon over in Statesboro. You click on there, and what you wind up doing is you get a profile on their farm. If there's immediately a hot link to their web, there's this whole web linkage is what we've been, been a significant lack of. And so this builds not only what's available, how to contact them, but then what else at Gerald's, what does he produce? And so I just these are the early days of this. Participation, we're well up over 100 companies that have bought in that are ready to go to bat, and we're going to be ready to go to bat for them. I think if you have a local farmers market at home, I'd ask you to drive them to us and let us. They need to be a Georgia-grown farmers market and be listed, and partner with us for $100 and license the use of the logo, and because every time we put that on some type of product, all we're doing is building brand recognition, and that's going to be good for all of us. It's good for consumers because there's product, there's quality there. But it's also good for farmers because it's going to build the market, the strength of the marketplace. So GeorgiaGrown.com, and I know it's one thing for me to walk around for just for a few minutes and show it to you, but I hope if you have a little time in front of your computer, if it's just Georgia is spelled out, GeorgiaGrown.com, visit that, and hope it'll be something that you can help us promote. Now, I did back when we were all running and doing things and talking about what we wanted to do. One of the things we did put on the table in the fall of 2010 was the farm to school initiatives. There's nothing new about that. They've been around for some time. There are a lot of people who have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that, and that's the whole notion of getting fresh to the school system, getting it in the breakfast and lunch programs, and how do you do that? And the school gardens have been pretty popular, and of course today being FFA Day, and y'all have seen the blue and gold coats all around. Y'all know the kids actively involved in agriculture. The greenhouses at some of our high schools, they've been utilized in some fashion. We've had for probably 3 generations now at roughly 30 to 40 high schools across Georgia, food processing centers. Some of y'all may not. They used to be line items in the budget. They should be called canning plants. They may still show up that way. But these were basically home, places where people brought their product in, and the high schools actually ran the facilities and still do. But to be farm to school, and I just got to thinking about a little different take of this, and things are. There are really a lot of things in this building and what we do in life. They're marketing. You may have a good idea, but if you don't get it marketed correctly, how are you going to connect the dots for people? So I reached out to Superintendent Barge, and he and I began to talk, and I just suggested a notion that with this department, we want to take leadership, and we develop the program and call it Feed My School for a Week. And I know that's a mouthful, but there's a reason behind it. First of all, we have to get parents and local people and local businesses and farmers and the whole community. We need to get them to buy in, and for a lot of reasons, that it's their school. It's my school. I take pride in my school. I appreciate your school, but this is my school. I'm going to take some ownership of that. But secondly, could we possibly feed my school? And then the notion would be that could we feed my school for 1 week within the confines of my community or my county or my area? And let's lay that proposition out. And so because if you begin to create an environment where local leaders can get together and you just ask them the right questions, I'm satisfied they'll come up with the right answers, and then we get out of the way. And then there's this other novel idea, maybe the Department of Agriculture. We know a little something about where food comes from and how to get it there and some of the food safety issues that accompany that. And Department of Education knows a little bit about school nutrition. How about us work together? And so Feed My School is launched. We have one more county this week. Bleckley County has their local meeting Thursday night. We took applications and announced it, and people applied. We looked at them blindly, did not know where they were, and we picked three schools that had the best applications and the best plans. One happened to be in Northern Hall County, which is a good kind of a somewhat, although still rural, but a little more of an or suburban flavor to it. We have a Bleckley County, which is a good middle Georgia rural flavor, and then just a couple weeks ago we launched it in Colquitt County in Moultrie. I can't describe to you the enthusiasm and the buy-in from the local community to the concept. Parents, teachers, Farm Bureau members, school board members, county commissioners, school nutrition professionals, all coming together. And our kickoff meetings, a couple of things that I try to challenge the group with is first, what does it take to feed this school for 1 week? Because I don't know. I mean, literally, how many chicken fingers is that? And, one of my favorite ones, too, tater tots. Tater tots are counted under USDA rules. They're counted as a vegetable. And ma'am? Maybe. And selfishly, I think about the fact, we don't grow any tater tots in Georgia. I've got some friends that have been able to lobby on behalf of Idaho, and so, more power to them. But if you just look at that, what if we just tried for a week to figure out what, and the second question that we pose to them after the school nutrition people kind of map out how, what does it take for this school for a week? Then secondly, if we planned a date out in a time certain, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, and we gathered the resources of our community, would it be possible, how much of our local menu could we provide within the confines of our county, our community, or our school system? And so this farmer says, well, here's what's available. And you start building inventories, then you start looking at what vendor relationships do you have to get in the school, and what all of, some of the details. But if you ask the big questions first, then you get people thinking. The enthusiasm, Mr. Chairman, is just out of sight. There were 300 people at Hall County. I fully expect over 200 people at Bleckley County. The Colquitt County would, if I could just, I wish I had the pictures to show you the extent of enthusiasm they displayed in just decorating the lunchroom for the community meeting. Unbelievable. And so there's no doubt that what we're going to do in this process, as people begin to get ideas, and we could do this and this and this, what they're going to rapidly find out is, there's some cost issues. There are issues relative to preparation. Because how you actually, in all due respect, you have to cook. And you cook, and that's no reflection. You didn't hear the Commissioner of Agriculture of the State of Georgia say anything about because we got dedicated folks interested in this issue, but also dedicated to the fact that if we could all work together, maybe to try some different ways of doing it in this whole issue of addressing the fresher and cooked products for the school. So what we're going to do now is, after we finish Bleckley County, we'll launch the counties. We're going to keep our nutrition outreach specialist is doing a absolutely wonderful job in being able to link together. Melanie Hollingsworth joined our team just under a year ago. She's a master 4-H'er from Jessup, mastered about 5 times in 4-H, so y'all know what that means. She's a great communicator, but she's got the science behind her too, and nutrition. Her master's is something like biomedical nutrition or something. I can't spell it, but she's right there in the forefront and can really talk the educator language and talk the nutrition language, and she's leading this effort on our behalf. So we hope, Mr. Chairman, to kind of wrap up, as we will experience some success this year. There's no doubt in my mind. Before the end of this school year, we're going to have some good things to report back to you about what happened in those communities. But what we're also going to do is we're going to have more grassroots people realize that there are some challenges within the government system. I know that shocks y'all, but this is in the purview of USDA, and we can promote farm to school all we want. But if on the other hand, from the regulatory side, if there are impediments that maybe we could work together to reduce. Now, in 2012, that is the year of, in my world, they call it the Farm Bill. Y'all will hear about it. It's every 5 years, and it's the reauthorization of the omnibus agricultural legislation at the federal level. Well, school nutrition's in that bill. If we can identify some of those impediments, we've got wonderful people in leadership with Mr. Kingston, Mr. Bishop, Senator Chambliss, who are going to be key players as this farm bill evolves over the course of the late spring and summer. And maybe we can identify some things as a result of our laboratory work here that'll help make the program more conducive for success in the future. But we're very excited about it, and we appreciate the chance to be able to share just a little bit of this vision with you today. And we chose 3 communities because we didn't want to outkick our coverage this year. We didn't know how deep we can get in, but I'm hopeful that maybe next year and earlier or in the fall we can be more aggressive, and maybe because we've got a lineup of schools that say that we just put me in line. We want to be a part. So back home, if we can be of service to your school in any way, Melanie would be our contact person. Did she slip in? She's not here, but y'all know, of course, Cindy and Martin on our staff are here, happy to serve you. And if you'd like to come over and talk about it in the office one day, and we get Melanie together, we'd be happy to do that. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner, for being here. I've got a couple of questions myself, and if you have a little time, we'd like to open the floor for some questions. But one of the things do you have to be certified to be a Georgia grown? Do you have to go out, send somebody out when you go to the these farmers markets? You may or may not have a Georgia grown, but people may be buying that logo, and so that's okay, not a big deal.
Well, right now, what we think we really need to crawl before we got to get the all these agricultural comparisons, but it's like turning a flywheel over, and it's got to begin to turn on its own. And so we'd like to take all comers. I mean, there's the spirit of the program that they'll have to, but are we going to deploy inspectors to make sure every box they've got? No, sir, because for $100, I don't care if they put the logo on everything they've got, because I mean it just promotes our brand. I think once we learn how it's received, we start measuring performance, that it may cause us to have to come back on some more protocols in the future. But right now we're hoping people are going to take it in the spirit in which we present it.
Okay, thank you. One other question is, talk a little bit about the on-site processing things that you're working on.
There are, and I thank you for phrasing it. We're working on it because don't have it solved yet, but we're sure talking about it. One additional thing in Feed My School is Irwin County's, my dear friend Wesley Polk is the lead ag teacher there and young farmer teacher. And they're fortunate. They have about 10 acres of farm that's the school farm, and it's right there at the school. And their food processing facility, which is one of the more modern ones, is, of course, right there. And it's just all perfectly networked together. In order for product, you do that food processing in those centers is for home consumption. There's the next step to get that product into commerce or into the school system. And so what we're trying to do is there a way in our Feed My School umbrella where, ideal world, what if Irwin County wanted to grow 5 acres of green beans and then can green beans in the commercial cans, and then find a way to get those into either a barter situation or into the system in some way. Now, our job is to get it there safely and get it there inspected, because we're not going to compromise that. But is there a way to convert these high school centers where they could be more commercial ventures? And my food safety folks are working on that right now. There's some hurdles that we got to get over, but it sure is fun to think about, because those assets are sitting there, and boy, if you could find a way to blend that into the school nutrition program, wouldn't it be a cool thing to do? But it's aspiration right now.
Well, I want to thank you for your excitement and your enthusiasm. Is any of the group have questions? Go ahead.
Mr. Commissioner, what would a lunch be that is Georgia grown? I mean, what would be a sample lunch, so to speak? Would it be beets and carrots and no tater tots and chicken fingers, or you know, what might a school have, and how are you building that in so that the Board of Education will help to purchase those foods from our local farmers?
That's a great question, Madam Chair. Of course, the school nutrition professionals in each of the schools, they know fully well what qualifies, and they meet the standards. Those standards are set by USDA about what the good lunch is, and so you start trying to match up seasons and match up availability locally. That's where the dreaming comes in. I can tell you right now, I know I think most everybody around the table is good friend Mike Giles with Georgia Poultry Federation. The poultry companies in all three of these schools, there's going to be enough collaboration where the chicken that can be served, a boneless chicken breast or something, or wings or whatever it might be, I think we're going to actually be able to track that bird through the process and to know which farm it came from. And then the poultry companies are willing to step up and do that. So I can see one of those meals during the week is going to be locally grown poultry. I think there's already been some efforts to try to figure out how, if we're going to determine what the menu is going to be for that week, and let's just say two or the other, one day we're going to have tacos, and let's just say tacos. Well, you have to back off of that. If we wanted to, if the local cattlemen's association wanted to raise out a couple, 2 or 3 or 4, according to how many students, you have to determine the capacity and have a local processor actually process the hamburger meat, and that meat could be used in the system. Now, again, there's some regulatory things we have to do to be able to get that to happen, but that can happen. So I think those are two good examples of what the meat product could be, and there's certainly spaghetti or hamburgers or whatever, according to what would be available. I think from a fresh standpoint, fresh vegetable standpoint, depending upon seasonality, it could be everything from the entire salad bar to certainly melons, broccoli, cabbage, carrots. Any of those, the wide range of fruits, peaches, apples, applesauce. One of the food processing facility at the high schools in North Georgia, they kind of have the capability of the green bean guy I was talking about, and they'd love to make applesauce. And so that's kind of a snapshot of just a few of the things that could be included. Dairy, of course, dairy products will be there. We're pretty much got Georgia grown milk there anyway, but you'd want to insure it for that week.
Any other committee members have questions?
Hi, thanks for coming today.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, a few years ago when I was on the Board of Education, there was a push to, make healthier meals, and then there's the challenge of getting the kids to eat them. They have to be palatable so that the kids will want to eat them. And then there's the cost prohibitive side of it, where if you're truly offering, healthy meals, then you want, milk products and, meat products, chicken, beef, to not have steroids and antibiotics and the things that cause kids to gain weight. and to serve low glycemic foods, because we have a lot of our kids that are developing diabetes, juvenile diabetes, and we're talking in the realm of preparing healthier meals, but with economies of scale and being able to mass produce, we're having to can and add preservatives and those type of things. So how would your program, is the Georgia grown stuff, is it organic, free of like
Some of it is.
pesticides, free of steroids, antibiotics, those type of things?
Well, what I would pose to you on that whole subject is that that's a market subject, not a social's not the right word, but I think that's an opinion. I think there's a lot of science that I'd love to discuss at some time. I think what we've got to focus on is making sure if we get locally produced products, one can make a market choice to say I'm gonna grow it, I'm gonna consume only things that have certain attributes. But to say that everything that's not exactly like that is not healthy, I can debate that all day long, because I think that's where we get we have a food system that's the safest and most abundant on the face of this globe.
Well,
And
if you're saying safe in terms of you're not causing food poisoning versus healthy in that
I could argue
promoting obesity and the things that the studies have shown, steroids and antibiotics do, and high glycemic foods do to children that are getting a steady diet of that.
right, but where if we're going to produce, if we're going to say that the only healthy broccoli to get on the table is organic broccoli, I'll say that's not an accurate. That's an opinion. But it's not, from a scientific standpoint, what I'd rather do, I'd much rather have fresh broccoli produced in Georgia that is conventionally grown and used with safe products, safe fertilizers, that are produced under good agricultural practices, inspected and safe here, rather than something frozen coming from somewhere else that I didn't know where it came from. Now, we could have the discussion all day long about whether, because some people, they do absolutely want it. I think organic is a market choice. You can choose to do that, and the marketplace will determine, what demand and price and affordability and all that. But I think fresher products produced closer to home, under USDA guidelines, would be much better than buying something out of a box from somewhere. You see what I'm saying?
But economies of scale, because they're mass producing, food, so they go with a lot of the frozen products and canned products because they're cheaper.
Correct, and that's what we're going to identify through this process, and then local people can make a choice. But right now, I believe that what I would be careful on is because again, we can discuss all day long what's healthier, because some people have their very strong opinions. I can show you lots of science that if I have I tell you, I can put it personally. I used to moved in the cattle business, and for years we fed out our calves and sold them to people to put in their freezer. We just kind of took the middleman out. Well, from a market-based standpoint, we sold it as we did not sell one that had antibiotics and did not sell one that used artificial growth hormones. But that was a market decision. I can tell you both of those products can be used safely, but it was a market decision people chose to buy, and I got a premium for it. And so that becomes a market decision of whether you want to do it. And the whole science, there's lots of science. But I would not say that just because everybody didn't do it the way I did it, that everybody else is wrong. I'm for all the Georgia agriculture, and I really believe there's opportunities for a market. The market kind of take place what the attributes are. But we do want it fresher, and we want it produced here, because that'd be good for our kids.
Representative Bell, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Here, and I don't think this is working, but I'm going to be okay with it. It's all good? Okay, there it is. Thank you so much for being here and for supporting this type of an initiative. One of the things that you mentioned is regulatory impediments, and the first thing that came up is getting rid of regulation. And we know how hard that is to do, a hard selling point. So I wanted to find out from you in our effort to try to help with that, should that be the case. How do we deal with the argument that our First Lady has heard about government telling us how to feed our kids? What would be your recommendation of really taking this information and taking this particular policy and implementing it in schools and fighting that type of a comeback?
Okay. First, the whole thing of standards in the USDA lunch program, I suppose they've been around since we've had USDA lunches. And so basic standards, I don't think, I don't want to remove basic standards. I don't know anybody that does. I did hear a little pushback, what was it, last week, when the school board member told the kid, the student, that their bagged lunch did not meet the standards. Now that'll cause me to bow up about as fast as anything.
Right.
And I wouldn't care who was promoting that. Somebody was way out of line, and I'm gonna send it. And I don't know if y'all actually read what the child had in the bag, but it's about as balanced lunch as anybody would ever have. A turkey sandwich with cheese and fruit, and so that was a local person that really, I think, crossed the barrier of what regulators. Of course, they didn't have any business looking at. I don't think they had any business looking at the child's lunch anyway. But that's another discussion for another day.
You're down the wrong road there.
That's another thing. I'm pretty closely held.
That's called bullying.
But talking about this, the regulatory standards are like how you get. Where I was speaking of is primarily the how you get product, what kind of food's what's really can get in the chain of commerce, and how do you have vendor relationships, and who's got. There are a lot of those kind of hurdles that I'm not prepared to speak on yet, but we're trying to sort through those, and I'm just suggesting, particularly with with Chairman Stabenow in the Senate, who is a pretty good voice on school lunch. I think she's going to be listening to a lot of things, and of course with Senator Chambliss being there too. I think this is an area I don't think there'd be any doubt they could partner on. And I think you'd find that way, that posture pretty much being the same way in the House Ag Committee, of trying to, who can be against getting fresher, locally produced product, having more access to that to school lunch program?
Well, we might find out. Once you ask the question.
They're probably always going to be different. Might be different paths people want to go, but who could the general concept of from ag groups,
right,
from Farm Bureau, from others that are interested in this particular issue, including our National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and so. We're not going to get to a pure situation.
Right.
We're not going to get to a pure situation where everything's, we'd all like to say that, we knew everybody that grew everything every day, every meal. Well, that's not going to happen.
Right.
We spend 9.68% of our disposable income on food. Nowhere else on the face of this globe does that take place. And that's one of the wonders of American agriculture. It's a good thing. And some of it does travel 1,500 miles to get here. But with the increased enthusiasm of folks wanting the local brand, that's going to open up more local opportunities for producers, and the market will sort out how much of that comes from which source. Yes, sir.
Mr. Commissioner, we have Representative Smith has a question for you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to know what, as policymakers, can we do to assist, or are you looking at public-private partnerships? Exactly what is the onus of what you're displaying and expressing today?
Okay. One, generally speaking, what my onus is, I appreciate you using that word. See, I understand. I live, eat, and breathe this. It's the way I was raised. It's the way God wired me. So I love my job. I believe there's more of a leadership role that we need to play in shining a light on this subject. So that's part of my onus. My onus too is I think we can get more Georgia products incrementally into the Georgia school system. I think that's good for Georgia farmers, and it's good for our students. And so that's my reason for us getting involved in this, and I think it's about time that state agencies do work together, and that's why I called John Barge nearly 2 years ago about this idea. So that's that. Public and private partnerships, absolutely. Arthur Blank Foundation's already stepped up in some capacity. They have a deep interest in this. I think there are others that care to see it succeed. I don't know that means, infusions of lots of money into a local school system. I don't know if that's the case. We got to make an economic case that it makes sense, because it's got to pay its way. Or we have to look at the cost benefit that, maybe we got a cheaper product here, but is it costing us out the other end of the equation, and would it be better to invest first so we don't have to spend over here? I think that's a discussion we got to have in this whole subject. But we just like to see it do better. That's why I'm in the game.
Mr. Commissioner, I thank you so much for coming.
Thank
You've
you,
done a
Mr.
great presentation. Again, we're excited about what you're doing and the job you do. And Sydney and Martin, we appreciate you very much too, and always look forward to seeing you in your halls. And
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We all want you to be Georgia grown, so y'all.
You're not asking for $100, right?
I know, right?
No solicitation.
thank you.
But can I get some beans instead?
Some beans.
Some fresh veggies?
That's
Peanut butter
fine.
and jelly on flour
I know,
bread
right?
with Mayhaw.
Crowd of peas.
We look forward to next year having a report about how wonderful things went.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to remind you of tonight we have a committee dinner at 6 o'clock at the City Club, and I'm at Capital City Club,
want those
6:30. Don't go to the City Club, go to the Capital City Club, and don't go at 6, go at 6:30.
6:30. It's one of the best.
Thank you very much, and we're adjourned.
Yes.
Yes. In a couple of hours. Right. But it's a good one. I know.